The Print Off the Cuff, presented by IIFL Wealth and Asset Management, corporate partner AU Small Finance Bank, in association with global insurance brokers, airline partner SpiceJet, in alliance with Indraprasth Apollo Hospitals.
I'm so thrilled to welcome you all to this very, very special, and I say special not just because this is the first one that we might be doing in a reasonably open physical environment, not online in a year and a half. And don't worry, we are all fully protected and taking all precautions between us. But also because we have two of the youngest and smartest, I said smartest, stars of Hindi cinema, and a wonderful director, Vishnu, Kiara, Sidharth. Welcome to Off the Cuff. And you know what? This is Delhi, right? My life runs in Delhi. So my universe is boring old politicians and diplomats and economists and some other kinds of crooks and stuff like that. Sportsmen sometimes, sportswomen when I get lucky, and sometimes film stars. But film stars, right now I realize that I am out of these people's league, because if you add the age of any two of them, I'll still have about a decade above them, right? So, thoda sa mere liye out of syllabus hai. That's the reason I have two of my better informed, much better informed colleagues, Apoorva Mandhani, who you see very often on her own show, which is Know Your Constitution, KYC, and also with me in Hindi, Headline Ke Piche Kya Hai, and Ruhi Tewari, who hosts Everyday Government Matters, because as you know, our life is about boring government. But when we get an opportunity, we get really interesting people for you. So here you are, Sidharth,
Lovely.
Kiara, Vishnu. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
I'm so happy to be with you. And they've also worked on a film that will be talked about for a long time. As you can figure out, this is about the life of Major Vikram Batra, who won a Paramveer Chakra in Kargil.
Is the craft a little different if you knew, because I know that this movie has been going on, you've been preparing for it for 4 or 5 years now. So if you knew initially that this would go on an OTT platform, do you think you would have done something differently, all three of you?
No, I don't think we've done anything about it, because we just try to be true to what the medium is, you know, because when you're filming a film like Shershaah, you know it has got this war, it's got this expanse, the terrain. So visually, automatically, you would be very sincere to what it needs. You would open up your frames, you would want to make it big. Irrespective whether it's going to be on a small screen or a big screen, what it needs, we were making sure that we were delivering that, irrespective of it. And we are very sure that, wherever any platform for that matter, whether it's going to be on an Amazon Prime or whether where we are going to have a theatrical release or anything, my only intention was to make sure that, okay, let them have the experience of what actually had happened at that time.
Right. Sidharth, biopics are not new to Hindi cinema. We've seen many, many biopics. Some work, some don't work very well. How difficult was it for you to approach this role in terms of making it different and ensuring that you stay true to the character without making it more masala, without making it more appealing to the masses?
Well, this is my first time playing a real-life hero. And because I met Vishal Batra first, Shabir Boxwala, our producer, where a long time back, about 5 years ago, where they told me in detail about their brother's story. I just felt a sense of responsibility from various angles. He's such a respected soldier in the Indian Army. He sacrificed his life for all of us today, the freedom that we have. And then when I met the family, just to realize that I come from a very similar background, Punjabi middle-class household. I felt, this could be my cousin, my family, my brother. And for them, it's not a commercial film. It's their son's life story, it's their brother's life story, and I have to put my best foot forward. So I think the time taken for various reasons for this film to finally culminate, it changed a lot of hands in producers and directors. Luckily, I was the only constant, so I feel more attached to this material, and I feel the kind of prep which I've put in would be slightly more and different from my previous work, and hopefully people see that. Whether it's getting him as this lovable Punjabi boy who's always positive, good-hearted. Anybody you speak to from his personal life or in the Indian Army, कि यार बड़ा ही अच्छा लड़का था, मतलब and he was only 24 when he passed away. So his life within the army was very short, and such an early age for influence so many people. And with that lovable Punjabi boy, he also had such a fierce soldier qualities. Like when he was leading the pact, you know, Vishnu and our director Sandeep have given me interviews. Vishnu and our writer Sandeep have given us interviews of all the soldiers, you know, who were serving with him, and so they very sweetly or say with such confidence कि जब बत्रा साहब lead करते थे ना तो हमें सुकून मिलता था कि बत्रा साहब आ गए. And at 24, at 23, 24, for him to be such a fierce leader that his, you know, juniors and subordinates would feel comfortable that he's leading in the front. So much to culminate. It's very difficult to show somebody's life in just 2 hours. We've all given our best with the correct intentions, and now hopefully the audience sees that.
May I just add to that? Of course. Taking from what he said, we've all, I think the intention has been, for everyone associated with the project, has been in the right place to capture that emotion, that his spirit, his, you know, the heart and soul of the film is in the right place. And like you said, there have been many biopics, and what makes this particularly special, and I'm saying this as a very personal experience. So I live in Mumbai, which is quite far away from the borders. And when the Kargil war happened, I was very young. So my, you know, my knowledge and whatever I knew of the Kargil war is very limited. And I do feel that when a lot of people from my generation and people who don't live, you know, who are not so exposed to the army life and culture, for lack of a better word and sentence, I'm going to say that with and no disrespect, but we do take our freedom for granted, and we don't know enough about our own people who probably do the most selfless and bravest, and I mean, no amount of words will be enough to express our gratitude. And after living so closely and experiencing his story and this film, the minute I had heard the narration, my first thought was, I have to be a part of this, and this film his story has to be shared. So I think that's why I felt everyone's intentions from a script level. I felt that heart and soul of this, you know, this ordinary man with an extraordinary personality really hit home, and it felt like this is our story, and now not just India, but it should be known all over the world.
Right. Vishnu, this is your Hindi cinema debut, right?
That's
but you've made quite a few Tamil and Telugu movies, and with Patil as well, it was you know, very critically acclaimed. I read that you interviewed gangsters and sort of tried to study their lifestyle. How did all of you maintain that authenticity in this movie? Did you interact with a lot of army people? How did you go about it?
I think that's a very first thing we had to do, you know, because our writer Sandeep had already done the research material, the first round of research. So when I came on board, so I said, okay, I can go through the material.
I'm sorry, when did you come on board with the movie?
This is exactly when our producer Shabir Boxwala, who had approached Sid to play Captain Vikram Batra along with the family, and then the writer was on board.
Okay.
That's next after that I came on board.
Okay, okay.
Yeah, so Sandeep Srivastava had done a round of research, and I said, okay, this is not enough. If I really need to do it now, this is, I've never done anything like this before, so I want to take it right from the scratch and go through the entire process. So I went around meeting almost everybody that is associated with him, with the help of Vishal Batra. So we had to meet the family, friends and everyone, and with the help of General Y.K. Joshi and Vishal Batra, we landed up meeting most of the officers who served with him. So we were travelling all around where they were placed, in Kashmir, in Pathankot, the parts of Punjab, MP, UP, in Bangalore. Mr. Navin Nagappa is placed in Bangalore. So everywhere we were travelling, meeting. Yeah, we had to do that. We did it for a couple of months. You know, a couple of months to gather all the material even before we could even start writing the script. Because just to get a sense of what really happened and what kind of a person he is, you know, only then you'd get the shape of what kind of a person he was when they actually share about him, you know. So you can use those traits and create, see, as I said, 2 hours is not enough, you know, to tell the story. So we know for the fact that Captain Vikram Batra is known for his achievements in actually sacrificing life in capturing 2 of the most important features. You know, that what has made him a hero and a legend. So we had to focus more on his service and the life of him, where what made him what he was. So that was the main focal point to make this film.
But was language a challenge for you at all, Vishnu?
No, I can understand Hindi pretty much. I can read, I can write, and I've also worked here for a couple of years, even before I made my first film.
Right.
You know, though I'm from the south, I'd worked in Bombay. So just to make my first film, I wanted to go back to where I came from. So I packed up my bags, I went back to start in Chennai.
Am I wrong? I was reading somewhere that you've played a cameo in a movie when you were a child, Anjali.
Yes.
Oh,
That's a little bit of a trivia.
Have you seen that Mani Ratnam's sir's film,
Revati,
Anjali?
it's a brilliant film. I think you'll
About
remember
this
when I
child.
remind you, you'll remember.
He's the child
Neighborhood
artist amongst
child.
all the kids who's doing breakdancing.
okay, now this is ragging. Now this is official ragging.
Very talented director.
No, yeah.
No, it's a brilliant film, so I thought it was an interesting...
Yeah, we did that. That was my very first exposure to films, actually, because the more and more they kept calling you on screen, you know, but I was more interested off screen. So because what was happening behind was more fascinating to me at that. I was doing my 7th grade at the time. So that's when I decided, okay, I need to get into the movies. I mean, at that age, I don't know what to do, but I was fascinated by what was happening behind.
Right.
But do you sometimes get the sense that people like us, who mostly watch Hindi cinema, although I tell Rahman always that I watched Roja and Kadhalan in Tamil first, so I discovered him through Tamil.
Correct.
Do you think that there is a lack of understanding of how technically and how professionally good solid southern cinema is?
See, I think it's, I mean, it's been a vast thing that, you know, I mean, technicians from South are much more sound and much more technically, you know, it's, I don't think it's like that. It's just the way you look at things, and because eventually the equipments that you use, those are just machines. Eventually it's about how you use them, you know, how you put them to the use. Because we have gone through a lot of tasks with nothing, we'll have to make things, you know, because that's how we started, you know. When we started film, it's not like, you know, we have a big setup and we have to start features. So that was very much challenging, because being a regional, we don't have a lot of budgets and all these things. So for me personally, I was trained to shoot with nothing actually. That was the very first aspect of even seeing things, you know, to see something extraordinary in something even just ordinary. That was your basic foundation to even begin with, you know. So I think pretty much that could be the reason why, we are like, and in terms of also, we also educate ourselves a lot when it comes to the technical aspects of it, trying to keep update, you know, trying to challenge yourself actually more than anything. So that's been constantly on a competitive level.
But today lines are blurred now.
It's blurred. It's
all
become,
languages are coming together, sir. Whether it's Gujarati movies being
but
made.
When I see stuff from the south, either I am struck by the scale, say Bahubali, right? I know that I don't have to believe it, right? But it's there.
Yeah.
Or I'm stuck with the and I'm sorry to bring in something else here, which might be competition, because it's OTT. I don't know if it's on Amazon Prime or not. Say something like The Family Man, which has also been done by... At least once I did put my foot in my mouth. It's rare. So you see a great deal of professionalism and finesse. I think that's the best we have seen on OTT as yet, just in terms of staying close to the story. And I can see that all the talent has come from the south. Production, direction.
But just as a fact, sir, those directors, Raj and DK, have made enough Hindi movies. Their last Hindi film was with me, A Gentleman, which unfortunately did not meet everyone's expectations possibly. So that's what I was saying, that lines are so blurred. Any technician or director, or whether actors are coming in, possibly maybe not main leads because there's a massive language barrier, or to really say those lines with conviction. But I feel every other department has
they're pretty much there. I think it's pretty much got to do with every individual. So that's what I really think, you know, because we have got great technicians and filmmakers.
More so now,
here.
I think more so in the last 5 years.
Yeah. And I think this marriage has been happening over years, you know, technicians coming from here, and we have a lot of actors and technicians working over there. That's been quite frequent actually.
Now,
and
of course, I'm sorry, we make movies for a more global audience now probably, but in terms of, you know, your art of direction, did you have to do something differently? I mean, in this movie as compared to your Telugu and Tamil movies?
See, there was nothing different that you have to do, you know. So every film you approach to the subject itself, you know, that's what it is, because that determines and that defines the design of the film.
Of course.
You know? So we were very clear that at the very beginning we will try to keep it as real as possible in terms of the look, not over dramatizing it or not making it too glamorous for that matter. Try to keep it as close to reality, and that's how even the action was filmed. If you actually see, if you see the promos and all these things, the action was shot like that. It was so handled like you have to be within it to experience what it is. Because at that point of time being televised, we don't know what happened on the peak, you know, we were only hearing about it. You know, so this was an experience for you to really know what actually could have happened on the top. So in terms of the treatment, let's try to be as real. Let's try to be handled, be inside and show the audience.
Okay, Kiara, you've been quiet for too long, so let me land at you now. So, you know, on one hand, you have something like The Lust Story, which is really an expression of female sexuality. I thought it was a brilliant short film. On the other hand, you have something like Kabir Singh, which has been criticized for being misogynistic, for being problematic, for being sexist. How do you reconcile these worlds? And did you think twice before signing Kabir Singh, or after the movie was, you know, when it finished, did you wonder why you did it?
So this is something that never leaves me. But no, I didn't think twice. Not before, not after. It was a film that is truly special to me. And it's perhaps, like I've said before, art is very subjective. We all view movies and have our opinions. So I'm going to set my record straight for the millionth time. So this is what I saw when I saw the original movie, and this is how I felt. Here was a pure, raw love story between two different personalities, one who had anger management issues and one who was a little more, you know, she was more reserved. They were completely opposite characters and different personalities. The one scene which the nation, a particular section actually of the audience were very unimpressed by was him, you know, raising his hand on her. But let me tell you, so was she very unimpressed by that, and that's when she left him. Once she left him, she never went back to him. She went on with her life. She had her share of hardships, but she stood as a strong woman, raising her child, leaving a marriage, leaving her father's house, and dealing with whatever she had perhaps, you know, called upon herself by being in love. Then he comes back after a long journey of cleaning up his act, going back to her, asking for forgiveness. And that's what happens in love. Sometimes you forgive, and as God in the Bible says that if God can forgive, why can't man? And I think it's a movie, and that's why that probably touched all the people who ended up loving it so much, and it became what it became. And that's a character that will be very special to me all my life. So yeah, I have varied characters, and as an actor, I think you look at, you know, it's how you approach your character and what touches you about every character, and you want to play different characters in different parts. I've even done a film like Guilty, where I've played, you know, again a very, she was a very inconsistent person as a person. So each of my characters have had shades and personalities probably very different from who I am. But that's what's exciting as an actor, to understand and draw strengths from that, and, you know, find that something that's interesting and intriguing, and that's perhaps why they connect, because they're all very real, you know, very really written characters, and people like that end up, you know, existing. But coming back to Shershaah, I feel this is perhaps one of my most special from anything that I've done, because here's a story of a lady who, it's a true story, coming back to when you asked, you know, about the masala and the authenticity. I remember hearing the narration and asking Vishnu sir, I said, did this really happen, or are we using creative liberty here and, you know, incorporating, and are these scenes, because some of the scenes were so filmy that I almost couldn't, you know, I wasn't so sure. And he said every scene between them that progresses in their relationship, whether it's the proposal, whether it's the filmiest scene of how he cuts his thumb with a blade and fills her mang with sindoor, and that's, I mean, with his blood, and that's how he proposed to her. That's everything that happened. So when I met with Dimple, and when she narrated, I mean, when she shared her, you know, her story and her relationship with me, it was literally like everything that was on paper was coming to life. And I had never ever heard of such an interesting, unique love story. So everything in the film, I think one thing that we've all, you know, been true to is playing it as authentically and honestly as possible.
Right. Okay, we've been hogging a lot of your time. I think let me get to some questions that our wonderful subscribers have sent for you.
We have quite a few.
And actually there are many questions, but okay, let's begin with this question from Priyanka Bajaj, who's with IPE Global. How challenging is it to do a movie about a real life hero, especially when you cannot go back to him to understand him and his circumstances? So this is an interesting question, Sidharth, because you don't have the prime subject there to talk to.
Absolutely. So I pretty much, the only video I had was the interview that he had given in a tent in actual Kargil war, where he described what happened, and when he also said that my code name Shershaah was transmitted by the enemy. So that's pretty much the only video I have of this much, and you know, him just giving his expression and saying that. Rest, again, hands, you know, full credit to Vishnu and Sandeep for giving that material of research, of whether it's videos, people giving interviews, or then Vishal Batra, his twin brother, who's so emotionally, for obvious reasons, so emotionally attached to this story. And when I meet the parents also, I feel you can tell a lot about a person when you meet his family. Right. And as I said before, you know, both his parents are teachers. They're from a house in Palampur. He studied in Chandigarh. So the challenge was or the attempt was never to mimic him, was never to be like him. It's to give you an essence of Captain Vikram Batra's story, hopefully, you know, for the youth to see a young 24-year-old feel so passionately and strongly about the nation that he gave his life for it, the biggest sacrifice. And that's what I want to ask the youth of today, that do you feel so strongly about anything in your early 20s? It could be anything that you feel for. But I feel if we all can inspire and instill that passion in the youth, I feel, you know, we will feel that we've added something to this country, and of course, we would want to respect the sacrifice that Captain Vikram Batra himself made.
Right.
Sure. There's a question from Mehnaj Ahmed Ansari. He works at Larsen and Toubro. This question is for Sidharth. He's asking, as an actor, you are expected to mold yourself into a character and make it as convincible as possible. But in this character, it's a real life hero we're talking about, right? A war hero. How difficult does it make the transformation process? And he's asking, how has this character changed you as a person? You know, how has this role changed you? If at all, of course.
No, I feel it is again what we were speaking before. The challenges come into, you know, figure out scenes that you want to portray certain aspects of his life, his personality. It's not only me but the whole team, whether Vishnu as a director comes in, Sandeep as a writer comes in and kind of concentrates that in different scenes. And in terms of what I have picked, I always, the first time when I heard it from Vishal Batra, you know, on that first peak that he captured, he was battered and bruised, and on top of that, he's on a radio he's telling his superior, ki, "Sir, ye dil mange more, sir. Ye dil mange more, and I want to finish this battle." Just to understand that psyche of this amazing personality, and he was a regular boy. He was a regular boy from Palampur. It's not like he comes from that lineage or training. We're 24. I mean, how much of a battlefield or war he must have seen. For me, that's such an inspirational moment, and that's such a moment that I feel, you know, we stop doing things, or we are always, the one thing that stops us is fear. All of us, in different things that we don't do. And Captain Vikram Batra, I think, overcame that with such style and confidence by saying these iconic lines. So I hope and pray that, you know, I could do that in the future or even right now.
Vishnu, is there a particular challenge doing military-themed films in India? Because they have to be fictionalized. You know, I say all kinds of bakwas, so I'll do some here also. For me, how not to do a military film is like a Sunny Deol film, right? I mean, but how do you not do a Sunny Deol film on the military and still hope that it will be successful?
See, this was a very strange thing even we met the officers, you know, because on an official level, sir, what happens is, you know, we don't have the records, you know, of a thing, because they are only citations, and most of the records, it's not like in the other countries where they're just open to the public, where you can use them. So that is where the maximum research what is possible with us, where you could...
by the way, our citations also come from a cookie cutter. They all read the same.
Yeah, so so the only possible way for us to actually do, sometimes we really struggle a lot to make sure that you really, what had actually happened with the information that you have, when you imagine them, to make sure that is it correct. Sometimes cinematic liberties you would take only to actually dramatize the emotion of that particular event. It's not that it actually happened, So these are the information we used to find it very difficult in gathering. That is where we actually seek the help of the officers, the majors, who were there with us when we were filming. So they used to help us. No, it never used to be happening like this. We don't do like this, We don't act like this. So that was great support for us. Those little nuances, details, was great support actually.
So they were present throughout filming?
So they were present throughout the filming, not only the filming, also during the research actually. And it was a very nice thing of General Y.K. Joshi and the other officers like Captain Sanjeev Jamal, who was at that time, come visit us in person, spend time with them and spend time on the part of the research, and also because he was the one who alongside Vikram captured .5140. Yeah. Captain Sanjeev Jamal, at that point of now, you cannot have better account. And especially Zubaida Raghunath also, who was there with him in both the captures. Now what information they give you is treasure for us. That is the only source of information that we have. There's pretty much a lot of material which we got, which was not even out on the public domain. When they say, what kind of conversations they used to have, that really helped a lot in getting the nuances of it.
See, by way of clarification, I don't have a judgment on any film star because I know very little. But the reason I said I described the genre as the Sunny Deol genre is that if you make the Pakistanis look so stupid and so cowardly that they are just coming in to be killed, then how do you show the heroism of your own people? Because the stronger the enemy,
is,
the more heroic your people for prevailing upon them. Correct. That's the reason I asked you. So when you were talking with, say, Indian soldiers, what kind of opinion did you find about the Pakistanis among them?
It was very interesting because, see, already we were in the most disadvantageous position. They were like sitting on the peak, they were fought like that, it was like this. So the only way is you go face the bullets and you do it. So already they were sitting at a very advantageous, and to take them by surprise, what they were telling me is they had snipers here and there which they were not even aware of. So they made sure, they were so strong, they made sure that they never let you even move a step. You were hiding behind the boulders, you have no choice. And in fact, they were saying they were constant fire that we were like sitting ducks. We couldn't move. That was a kind of an strength that they had to make sure that you don't move an inch. If you move an inch, you die. That was a kind of an hold they had. The most, which took me actually, because Captain Vikram Batra was shot by a sniper. They didn't even expect that. And the most difficult thing which I'll never forget what they said is we always were waiting for the fear of the unknown. That was one thing which they were always saying, because you don't know from where what is going to happen. In fact, when the shellings were happening also, so they were on a very strong, they were already on the most strongest position, sir. And these are the little details which they were giving us, the fear of the unknown and how they never let us move an inch. In spite of it, I think that is where the bravery comes in, where you have to face the bullets, you have no choice, which is what also Captain Vikram Batra did. Because it was an Indian brigadier who wrote the citations for both Vikram Batra and the Pakistani officer also, Captain Karnal Sher, who got Nishan-e-Haidar, which is the Pakistani... The highest ranking, the highest gallantry honorary, yeah. Right. Okay. Brigadier Chima, was it? I'm not sure about the name. Indian Brigade Commander.
So another subscriber has actually related question. This is Amaya Chumbhale, who works with Sakal Media. Army biographies in India still have love songs and over-dramatization of the subject's love life. Who is responsible? Is it the audience or the exhibitors who demand love songs? So, गाने कितने हैं picture में? मतलब ये एक सवाल होता है.
See, in our case, even his love story, his personal story is so filmy in that way, and it's authentic. Dimple Chima is a person who's alive and who's interacted with Vikram Batra. She was such an integral part of his life. So this is not fictionalized. Pretty much 90% of what you see in Shershaah has some way or the other happened in Captain Vikram Batra's life. Now, whether because of time constraints, we cannot show all the meetings that they had in a love story, because that's a complete different film in itself. So we use music. We're definitely not making our characters dance. It's something, moments that you have to put some melody on top, so that you know in those 2 minutes that okay, this is the first time they met, which is Rata Lambiya. This is now they're a little mature and they're committed to each other. This is another song. These are moments which help. These are all narrative kind of tricks that we use to probably progress time between characters. But again, I think in our film specifically, the attempt is not to cut into song and dance and performance. So you will not see any of that. And of course, the love story, all the moments is what Kiara was also narrating, is funny. That was my first reaction also, that he was such a massive filmy buff that, you know, every time if his girlfriend used to say ki, you know, you don't spend time with me, or you're all about your service, and when do I get to see you? He's like, okay, abhi shaadi karte hain. And you know, and cut his finger and on a public location, filling up her mang. We are not making this up.
It's as filmy as it can get.
It's as filmy as it can get.
So,
and
so most of the tracks are just the background as we used, you know, just to emphasize and to play with the emotion. You know, so as you said, no, we don't have any lip syncs or anything like that. But I'm not against it either, you know. But for this film, I didn't need it. You know, for this film, I just wanted to use it as a background to give you a time lapse, a sense of time lapse, or to be in just one moment. It's not about playing multiple moments, you know. It's playing just one moment to just squeeze the emotion out, you know, at the right places, especially even towards the climax, you know. So those are the only parts where we use the songs.
Yeah, I think it's a question of how you use it, because even if you see the old Hakikat, it uses a lot of songs, but the same way, and those are great songs by Kafi Azmi.
Yeah, exactly.
But they tell you the story and they endure after
to move the narrative.
So
this is a question about Kiara's character. Actually, this is from my colleague Simran Sarur. She's asking that oftentimes the kind of biopics that Shershaah is, the spouse, mostly the wife of the protagonist, takes a backseat and comes as an afterthought. How do you think your character is different that way?
I want to share something that I had watched a while ago when I was filming for the movie. So I watched this TED Talk of an army wife.
Okay.
And for those who might not have seen it, so she spoke about the fact that how army wives are defined by their husbands and by their spouse, and how, as you said, as civilians, we only think of them as an afterthought when we get that bad news that unfortunately of their, of someone's passing, and the first thing your heart goes out to the family. Like, he has young children, what must his wife, newly married, his parents, that's when you think of them. But through this film and when I met with Dimple, I was fortunate to have the experience of really understanding that emotion which we feel they think at that time only is actually felt by them every single time their man is called for duty. Because she, even when Dimple spoke, she said, I would write him 20 letters, but I would wait for that one letter to know he's okay. And it's not a regular relationship where you can be like, how was your day at work today? What did you do? Who did you fight? You can't. Those are not. You can't ask those questions, and you respect that boundary. You respect their duty. You equally support their dreams, and that's the way they serve. In a way, that's also their service to the nation by supporting that. But that emotion is something which also makes you, and because this is a biopic, it also makes you understand. You feel so much more for the characters, for the people. And that's something that stayed with me, because I realized, I said, I only would think of how they feel at that end moment, but their whole journey, no matter from the minute they become an army officer is that whole journey of their duty and service. I mean, that wife, that spouse, that fiance, family, their heart is in their mouths, and they're not trained for that emotional turmoil. And so this really stayed with me, and I feel, I hope the way it impacted me, I hope, because that's something that's the emotion that really, at the end of the day, this is a human being who's probably doing the most extraordinary duty of his life. and he's still a human being. He still has a relationship. He still probably had promises. He probably thought, yeah, I'm going to come back and marry this girl. She was waiting for that. And these people stay with you because you feel like they didn't make it there. So it stayed with me, and I feel when we say backseat, I personally, in this case, I don't feel so. I feel in the way Vishnu sir is telling the story also, I feel, you know, he balances it out in a way that really makes you feel for him as a complete person, as a partner, for her as his partner, for his family, for everyone that's left behind. Because when someone passes away, you always think of those people as well.
When will it be possible in India to do a real military story, bots and all, platoon, full metal jacket, stuff like that?
I think it's not a question of when we can do so. I think we should be wanting to do it. Yeah. I think that's more it actually, you know, because like I got the opportunity to do, you know, because you got inspired, you know, when you get as a filmmaker inspired by one particular event, like you're talking about a Full Metal Jacket, films like those, you know, okay, we have so many events that has happened like that. You know, it just opens up because you're not running through the process of only the commercial cinema. Okay, I need to tell only these kind of stories, only these kind of stories are working in the business, these kind of stories are working in the market. I think it's just beyond that, you know. So for me now at this point, when after making this film, I feel like, okay, now I really need to look at more into it. It's not just this, the buck doesn't end here, you know. There is more to it, either any service for that matter, you know. It's not just the Indian Army, there's the Navy or the Air Force or even the people who are actually helping during the COVID, who are emerging as heroes, you know, anybody for that matter. So now you really start looking, you know, because as you filmmakers, we keep growing, every film as we keep making, the more matured you get, the more matured even your films become. So the more you start looking at those, I think it's got to do with your exposure and your wanting to make. And if that is there, I think definitely we can make those kind of films.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to have you with us.
I subscribe to your channel and thank you so much for all the lovely and precise conversations that you
Thank you very much. आपने एक फिल्म वो भी की थी ना, Student of the Year.
जी सर.
तो ये मत बोलना. We are about to launch a very cheap subscription plan for bona fide students.
मैं उसके लिए apply करने वाला हूँ. Very good. I'm so happy.
Bona fide student because I did
बिल्कुल Student of the Year. I'm ready for that.
But thank you very much, and I hope more of you subscribe to ThePrint.in. We do serious, boring stuff. Occasionally we do interesting stuff like this. So thank you all for being here. And let me also once again remind you that we are all twice vaccinated. We've just had our noses and throats poked rather rudely over the past 48 hours to make sure that everybody is safe, and we've taken extraordinary safety precautions. And all of you also, the R naught for COVID has gone to 1 right now, so be careful, always use a mask or any mask that you prefer, and I'm deliberately hiding the brand name here because I'm not the chairman or president of BCCI, that if I endorse a mask to you, you will buy it. So wear any mask, but please do wear a mask.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. It's been a great pleasure talking.
Thank you so much.
The Print Off the Cuff, presented by IIFL Wealth and Asset Management, corporate partner AU Small Finance Bank, in association with global insurance brokers, airline partner SpiceJet, in alliance with Indraprasth Apollo Hospitals.